Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Tim Kelly, joined by Justin Godsey. And Justin, we are winding it down on the 30 Clubs, 30 Previews MLB special today with the world champion San Francisco Giants, your favorite team and a team that we get into to end the third annual 30 Clubs, 30 Preview special. And it's been a fun ride previewing all these teams. And today we are on to the team that was at the top of the MLB last year.
Absolutely, the San Francisco Giants, my team, a team that I have seen multiple times out here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I almost said San Francisco there. Me being based in Arizona, I get to see a lot of spring training. I mainly go to the Giants, and you know what? The 2013 San Francisco Giants, they do look the same as last year. They did not really go out there and really acquire a lot of players this year. You know, this is a team who last year, you know, with Buster Posey, with Pablo Sandoval, with Marco Scutaro for a big portion of the year and going into the World Series, played phenomenal overall. They acquired Hunter Pence, but when you look into their offseason, they only acquired one guy, and that was Andres Torres, who they traded away to the New York Mets in order to get Angel Pagan. He's going to be coming back to the team and be serving as a backup in all positions in the outfield. The Giants' main off-season need was, you know, pretty much go out there and re-sign the two big guys, the two big free agents this year on the team, which was Marco Scutaro and also Angel Pagan. They returned both of these guys, and you know, when it comes to those two, I'm really concerned on one in particular guy, and I will really bring that up once we get to that guy.
Yeah, once we get to him, Justin will voice his concern, but I think overall with this team, not only do they add in, or they re-sign Marco Scutaro, they re-sign Angel Pagan, you're going to get Hunter Pence for a full season, which should be valuable to your team. And a lot of people forget Hunter Pence really kind of had a down year in general last year. You get him, and Tim Lincecum had a horrific season last year, ended the World Series in the bullpen. And he has the ability to come back this year, although he hasn't been good in spring training. He has the ability to come back this year in a contract year and prove that last year was just a fluke and he can have a bounce back year. So we'll get to him in just a moment when we get to the starting rotation. But we are going to begin with the guy who's not going to be in a contract year for quite some time, Justin, and that is Buster Posey behind the plate. Today, actually, he agrees to a 9-year, $167 million extension coming off an MVP season in which he hit .336 with 24 home runs, 103 RBIs. He's one of the best catchers behind the plate that we have in the game right now, and I think overall he's one of the best players. I don't think there's any question he is the best catcher overall. I think I would take him over Yadier Molina or some of the other guys that people would list, and he's become a stud, Justin.
Absolutely the best catcher in Major League Baseball. I can back that up. A guy who faced, you know, adversity in 2012, coming off a very dangerous injury in 2011 with, you know, I think it was actually Scott Cousins who banged right into him at home plate in 45 games in 2011. You know, it was ended short. Coming into 2012, you know, a lot of people had a voice of concern. Is Buster Posey going to get back into form that we saw in 2010 as a part of the World Series Giants team that year? But, you know, in 2012, he really skyrocketed and really wowed us. Buster Posey last year, 24 home runs, 103 RBIs, batted .336. Now going into 2013, you know, he's went on with a new contract, and it was a perfect timing for a new contract to come this way. Today we saw, you know, Justin Verlander getting a big contract extension. You know, he's at age 30 years old, and the Tigers are going to be paying this guy over the next, you know, course of the next 7 to 8 years when he's like 37, 38. Where Buster Posey, who signed a 9-year deal, this is going to be, you know, a big portion of his career. He's going to be playing his whole career in San Francisco. He's a fan favorite in San Francisco, and you know what? This could possibly be his final contract in baseball, unless he wants to, you know, extend his gameplay when he's like 41 years old, which is not going to happen. But you know, overall, Buster Posey, a phenomenal defensive catcher, amazing catcher, and amazing fan favorite in San Francisco. I mean, what can you get? What's possibly wrong with Buster Posey?
Yeah, I think your math's a little bit off there. I think he'll end up having another contract, but your point is well taken. They lock him up. It's at $18.5 million annual average, and I like that deal a lot. I think As a catcher, you're not going to get much more. Joe Mauer got in. He's been an extreme disappointment. And I think long-term we could see Buster Posey switch positions. I've still said that for quite a while now because I think he'll play catcher for a few more years, and then to prolong his career, we could see them move him to either first base or the outfield or one of the two just to see if they can lengthen his career out. But overall, right now, behind the plate, they are set with him. Hector Sanchez will be his backup. Sanchez played 74 games at the MLB level last year, hitting .280 with 3 home runs, 34 RBI. Sanchez is a very capable backup, and he's young, but for the most part, you're not going to be seeing too much out of him because Buster Posey will be getting the starts behind the plate. One of the reasons that the Giants will likely not move Buster Posey to first base anytime soon is because of Brandon Belt over at first base, who is a tremendous fielder, and then also last year he hit .275 with 7 home runs, 56 RBIs, stole 12 bags. I want to see him get that average up, and certainly he's never been a guy throughout the minor leagues that's been a great power hitter, but I want to see him hit like 14 or 15 home runs this year, not just 7. I want to see him get the average up to 280, 285 in that area. He's never going to be a tremendous hitter, but I certainly think he can be better than what he was last year.
Oh, absolutely. This is a guy who I really followed through in 2010. He was just coming into the major league level, or coming into the minor leagues after being drafted by the San Francisco Giants. He was the pride of Texas, and now he's going to be playing over at the major league level this year. Last year, 7 home runs, 56 RBIs, batted .275. I have a lot of high expectations for Brandon Bell as the Giants. He's going to be filling in for the role of Aubrey Huff, as we saw last year. He's no longer with the team anymore. And you know what, Brandon Bell, he's young, he's talented, he has an amazing bat. He's not going to go out there, like Tim said, he's not going to go out there and wow you with a lot of home runs. This is a guy who has a lot of potential to hit, 20 home runs, but I honestly do not think in his career he can actually hit that because his average is where it really needs to be. Because when you look at his average from college and coming over to the farm system, he batted .383 in 2010 with the San Jose Giants, and then when he came over to, I think it's the Richmond Squirrels, I think is what their AA affiliate team name is. I know how silly it sounds, but you know what? This guy batted .337, so coming up to the major league level, I honestly think we have not seen the best of Brandon Bell. I think 2013, if this Giants team is really going to compete against the Los Angeles Dodgers, which really has an amazing team, I think Brandon Bell has got to be one of those guys to really step up this year, really start getting the home runs, and start, getting some power to his bat.
And getting the average up would be key for him as well. Now, Marco Scutaro is a guy that they picked up off waivers last year, and Brian Sabean and this front office appeared to have figured things out in terms of finding the right guys. They found Cody Ross and Pat Burrell a few years ago, and then they found Marco Scutaro, Hunter Pence last year. And Marco Scutaro actually played a bigger role in the playoffs than Hunter Pence did, at least with his bat. Scutaro in his time with the Giants in the regular season was on fire, hit .362, and then ended up having the game-winning hit in the clinching game in Game 4 of the World Series. So he was a huge part to this team. He is a bit up there in age, but I think Scutaro is still someone that can provide a solid bat for this team. He'll give you 7 to 10 home runs, 50 to 60 RBIs. So I like Marco Scutaro a lot for the next couple seasons for this Giants team.
This is my course of concern for Marco Scutaro. This is a guy that this is the guy I'm going to be talking to you guys about, the guy that I really had a big course of concern. Marco Scutaro, I have this feeling that he's not really going to produce as well in the regular season. Because when you look at it, he has had, slow starts to the season, and really is just under the flaw over the past couple of seasons. When you look at Boston, when you look at his time with Colorado, he was batting .299, batted .271. It's just I just don't think that Marco Scutaro is going to have a greatest early start to the season. I think he's going to be a late bloomer going into the later parts of the season. I appreciate what he did for us during the playoffs, but you know what? I don't think he's worth the 3 years he got. I think about a year or two and really just look at your options at what you had down in the farm system. There's one guy who really comes to my mind that should really be a guy you will look out after, Marco Scutaro's time with the team's done. That's Joe Panik, who's down there at the AAA level, just waiting to get his time up. I know a lot of people are just saying, this guy going to make his, debut at 2013. There could be a highly possibility because, The Giants right now in their infield, it lacks a lot of depth. Their main backup right now on the bench is going to be Joaquin Arias. And you know what? Joaquin Arias, he's not the greatest home run hitter. His average is not really the best. But you know what? They really need another guy to really come into this organization and take over the bench role. And they got, not taking anything away from Arias. It's just that him, Hector Sanchez, those are the only two guys currently on their bench along with Andres Torres. They just need another guy to play the infield. And Joaquin Arias is a guy who's not the greatest fielder in baseball. They give it to a much younger guy like Joe Panik.
Now, I actually like Joaquin Arias as a backup, and I'll get to him in a minute. Brandon Crawford's going to be the starting shortstop. Crawford's a guy that in 143 games last year hit 248, but he hit pretty well in the playoffs. He's a tremendous fielder, and he does have some speed. He's someone that I think he's probably one of the best fielding shortstop in the game. Him and Asdrubal Cabrera come to mind for me as the two best fielders, and I think his bat can improve. Now, Justin, you mentioned Joaquin Arias, who will be the backup at both short and third base. I love his glove, especially over at third base. They signed him to a one-year deal worth almost $1 million this offseason. He's going to be an average type of hitter. He's going to hit 3 to 5 home runs a year, bat about 250, 270. That's the life of a pinch hitter. I think overall they should add one more utility infielder probably, but he is someone that off the bench I think he's very capable late innings as a defensive replacement for Pablo Sandoval over at third base, and as someone as a pinch runner or even an occasional pinch hit. I like Joaquin Arias a lot.
I mean, we all have our different opinions, but when you look at Joaquin Arias, he's not going to appear in a lot of games. I think what he really needs to do is go to a team where he can get a fair amount of time where he can actually play. He's appeared. And, last year, he appeared in 112 games. That's actually a high in his career in any team because he's getting his opportunity now, which is good. But you know what? He's not, the greatest ability. He's going up there in age. And I think the Giants, when they look at their bench, they got to get a little bit younger. And that's why they have some great guys in their farm system to really come up and actually wow you. Now, when you look at Brandon Crawford, a guy who I'm a huge fan of since day one, since he came into the organization in 2008, the pride of UCLA, a phenomenal glove, a guy who's not really going to wow you with his average. He's not going to wow you with a lot of home run power. Last year he hit 4 home runs in his first full season with the San Francisco Giants. He's in the team's long future ahead. You cannot go wrong with him because he plays great in tremendous field. His field is just overall amazing. If you watch this guy, he's a human highlight reel, and his bat is another course of concern here because when it comes to him, he bats 248 last year and batted 204 in 2011. You do have a high expectation, us Giants fans, going into the season and looking at Brandon Crawford, a guy who can really just have that breakout year for the Giants and can get up there and bat, 260, maybe 270. I'll even take that as a big drastic improvement to his batting average. He's going to go out there on an average and get you about, 3 to 4 home runs a year, but that's mainly just the best. But you're getting the best out of him, and that's when he's playing the field.
Yeah, that is when I think he is just really a Gold Glove caliber guy. Now, Pablo Sandoval over at third base. Pablo Sandoval this spring hit .435, so that's hopefully a sign of things to come because he appears to have picked up where he left off in the World Series last year, in which he hit 3 home runs, I believe it was in game 1 or 2 that he did that, and hitting .283 last year with 12 home runs, 63 RBIs. That was in only 108 games. I want to see him get back to the form that he was in 2011, where he hits .315, 23 to 25 home runs, 70, 75 RBIs. I think that's what you can get out of Pablo Sandoval. Still relatively young, and he's a guy that is one of the better, probably top 7 third basemen in the game right now.
Oh, absolutely. He provides great pop to this team. His home runs, the total of home runs that he got last year, it was 12 home runs last year, and it really dropped off from what he had at 2011 with 23 this year. But you know what? He's really just concentrating on his average this year. And I think this is a guy who can go out there and continue to supply, those 20 home run years. But you know what? I will take that average more than the power that he can produce. 283, I'll take that. His average did fall down last year from 2011, which we had an amazing season. That 315 that year and 283 last year. This is a guy that has a lot of potential, to hit up in the 300s as we saw in 2011. But realistically, I'd rather take the average that he produces, 283, 290 up there in 2013 is where I had to project him to be, and I'll take that. He's not going to craze you with his fielding abilities. He is a much huskier type of guy, and he can make those eventually going to the ground and making those chaotic plays. He's just not. You're not going to see that as often.
No, you're not. A guy that you will see that from, though, is Gregor Blanco out in left field. He stepped in for Melky Cabrera last year when he got suspended and played pretty well. He's not going to be a great hitter. He hit 244 last year, but I've seen this guy with the Braves throughout the course of his career and then with San Francisco last year. And the thing that I love about him is the range he has, and this is one of the hardest stadiums. AT&T Park is one of the hardest stadiums to field in, especially in the outfield. I'd say this in Fenway would be the two biggest, strangest outfields, and in left field it is very deep, and we saw the range that he has in Matt Cain's perfect game when he made that diving catch. He also has the ability to steal bases. Last year, stole 26 bags for the Giants. I'm not sure over the course of a full year, though, if his bat is going to be enough. I think if the Giants are going to have one spot that they're going to look to upgrade at the trade deadline, it might be getting at least another getting a right-handed guy to platoon with Gregor Blanco. I think he's good a couple days a week, but I'm not sure he is an everyday player.
Yeah, I agree. That's why they reacquired, Andres Torres. During his time with the Giants, it was actually pretty solid before trading him over to the Mets, where it really just did not really work out with him. But now they're reacquiring him over to become the backup, which really relates to Gregor Blanco here, who has really just been bouncing around from the Braves into Kansas City for a season. Then he went back to the Braves in 2010, and the Giants were able to acquire him in 2012. And you know what? He's not going to wow you with the average. Over the course of a full season, I don't think his bat's really going to be there. This is a guy who in 2010 batted .310, but that's only in 36 games, so I don't really count that. If you play about 70 to 90 games, I will really count that. 70 being really lenient towards a player in that period of time. But Andres Torres, who's going to be serving as a backup, he has great potential. He gets a decent average, but when you really look at Andres Torres, you look at his capabilities of being a solid defensive outfielder, a guy who has hit a total of 16 home runs with the Giants in 2010. He does have some pop, but when he was with the New York Mets in 132 games last year, his average was 230, and he was really just to go to the Mets just for a big for a replacement for Angel Pagan, but he really just did not live up to the expectations that the Mets wanted him. So, his chances of returning to the Mets in 2013 was really slim, and the Giants really wanted to bring him back because, the depth in the outfield, it was really slim because they're going to be going with Gregor Blanco, which is that course of concern. Is his back going to be, consistent an entire year? Because this is going to be his first season going the entire year as a starting left fielder.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't work out, I'm not sure Andres Torres is really the guy either. He's a switch hitter, and he had that one tremendous season in 2010 where he stole 26 bases, hit 268, 16 home runs, it was 63 RBIs. He had that 1 year, but other than that, he's really never put it together like that in his career. He didn't do it in 2011 with the Giants, hit 221, and that's one of the reasons they were able to they wanted to trade him away, and they obviously got the better end of that deal with Angel Pagan, who I'll get to in a minute. But I think if the Giants are realistically looking for an upgrade, then we're going to see them go after a right-handed guy with some type of pop, kind of like a Josh Willingham, Cody Ross type of guy. They're probably not going to get either of those guys because they're for sure not getting Cody Ross, but they're probably not going to get even a guy like a Josh Willingham, but someone like those two guys that has some pop and can play the outfield at least respectably. Delman Young, if it doesn't work out with the Phillies, is certainly an option that you could see there as well. But Angel Pagan in center field in 154 games last year played really well. Hit 288, 8 home runs, 56 RBIs, 29 stolen bases. I think he played really well last year, but I also do believe that the Giants really overpaid for him. 4 years, $40 million. I like Angel Pagan, and I know it was a strange center fielder's market because Michael Bourne didn't sign till late, and the Giants didn't want to get stuck with no one, but I think that they jumped and they outbid themselves because no one was giving Angel Pagan anywhere near 4 years, $40 million.
Yeah, he was really going into the offseason, really looking for, a high contract. Another guy, got to give a shout out to Indian River Community College, the pride of Indian River here, Angel Pagan. Last season really well. I mean, I honestly did not know that Angel Pagan was really going to play that well last year. He is the Giants, leadoff hitter. He batted .288 last year, and when it came to the playoffs, I was actually really intrigued the way that I would give him big ups to his time in the World Series. He played amazingly well. Serving as a team starting, leadoff hitter and starting center fielder. He has a great, glove overall. He hit really well, batted .288 last year. This is a guy who's not going to reach a batting 300. We saw that all but one time, and that was in 2009 with the New York Mets, but that was only in 88 games. This guy, over the course of a year, he will get you about 288 to 290 at best. Somewhere in the 290s will be the highest. But overall, you're getting a really productive leadoff hitter who can get on base. He is a guy who can be somewhat dangerous on the base path. He does have some speed, and we saw that last year with 29 stolen bases, 32 in the season prior with the New York Mets. Overall, it was a great acquirement, but Tim, I have to agree with you. I think the Giants really a little bit overpaid for him. He's still getting up there. He's getting up there in age, and you know what? The 4 years is probably going to be, it's right on track, but he's really aging. I can really see his stolen base numbers to drop a little bit, but you know what? I'd rather take the average than the stolen bases.
Yeah, I believe that they overpaid him. I think that I think he would have got 3 years, maybe close to $25 million, but I don't think he was going to get even 3 years, $30 million. We'll see if that pans out. I don't think it will. Hunter Pence is a guy that in the offseason the Giants will have to make a decision on. He is an impending free agent, and if he plays how he did last season, then he probably will not end up getting a long-term deal from the Giants because he really did not produce well with the Phillies last year. He hit .271, 17 home runs. You take a little bit off because Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, they were all out of the lineup when Hunter Pence was with the Phillies. Victorino had a down year. Rollins started slow, so Hunter Pence wasn't seeing a ton of pitches, and he was trying to do too much. But then he goes over to the Giants and hits .219 with 7 home runs and 45 RBIs. He was disappointing then, and then in the playoffs, he had a few really clutch hits, and I'll give him credit. He had that one where it hit the bat 3 different times. That's all great, but throughout the playoffs, he really did not perform very well either. This is a guy that prior to last year, he had 3 straight seasons of hitting over 300, including hitting 314 in 2011. He needs to get back to that pace. You'd much rather see him hit 20 or 25 home runs rather than try and be a star and hit 30 home runs like he tried to be last year. He's just got to get back to the player that he was a few years ago. He's a cannon arm in right field, and he needs to see the bat return this year.
I think in the long run, I think it's going to work out really well for Hunter Pence and in San Francisco because this is a guy who I've seen firsthand during spring training. He played actually pretty well during spring training, in the times I actually went over to Scottsdale Stadium. And Hunter Pence, when he came over from the Philadelphia Phillies to the Giants, the Giants were just really shopping Nate Schierholtz around because Nate Schierholtz, he's an amazing player. So he was really disappointed with the organization for not getting a lot of, playing time, so they decided to trade him to Tim's Philadelphia Phillies. And you know what? I honestly did not think that we were going to get someone really big and of a name to come to San Francisco. I was just thinking maybe a couple of minor prospects because Nate Schierholtz, he's an average type of hitter. But out of nowhere we got Hunter Pence, and I was just really wowed and excited. Tim, you know that firsthand by my reaction for it. And Hunter Pence, I have a lot of high expectations. His average really needs to go up. You need to go back to the season where he had in 2011 in a split season with the Philadelphia Phillies and the Houston Astros where he batted .324 in an entire season. His average, in 2012 and with the Phillies, with the Giants and Phillies, it wasn't the greatest, batted .253 all year round. He really needs to pick that up. That's the biggest course of concern right now. He does have a lot of his power was there last year with 24 home runs. He has a great glove in the outfield, and Tim mentioned a great cannon of an arm. When you add that together, you have an amazing outfielder. But you know what? His average really needs to go up, and I did give him a lot of big props to that with the bat hitting the baseball 3 times. But overall, his playoff ability was just not the greatest.
Yeah, he was a good leader for the team, and that's one of the things that he brings to the clubhouse that was able, kind of overshadowed how he didn't play all that well, is because he had a few big hits and he really pumped that team up before the game. You look into Hunter Pence's eyes and he's one of those guys that pumps you up, but overall he just did not perform all that well in his time with the Giants last year. We'll see what he does this year. I think from having seen him firsthand in Philadelphia, I think he's kind of overrated. That's my thoughts on it, but we'll end up seeing what happens this year. Maybe I'll be wrong. Now, looking over to the starting rotation, a guy that is certainly not overrated is Matt Cain. Last year went 16-5 after getting a huge extension prior to the year with a 2.79 ERA, over 200 innings for the 5th straight season. Justin, Tim Lincecum had the better start to his career, but Matt Cain has turned out to be more consistent and long-term, which we'll get to in a minute with Tim Lincecum. Long-term, it appears Matt Cain has ended up being the Giants' guy.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Lincecum has really just fell down right now. You know, this is a guy who is a Cy Young winner, multiple-time Cy Young winner at that. And, you know what, he goes from being number 1 to number 3 in the pitching rotation. You know, Madison Bumgarner really outplayed him, you know, the past couple of seasons, and I'm giving big praise to Bumgarner. And, you know, we'll get to Tim Lincecum here in a minute, but heads up on Matt Cain, a phenomenal pitcher, a guy who has really taken over this Giants starting rotation. Last year, Cy Young caliber numbers, 16-5 record with a 2.79 ERA, 219 innings. This is the guy who can extend his pitching mechanics into, you know, the later innings, into the 7th and 8th inning. And you know what? He's a phenomenal player and has really taken over as the ace for this squad.
Madison Bumgarner's a pretty damn good number 2, and he's only going to continue to get better. Bumgarner last year went 16-11 with a 3.37 ERA. 2 years ago in 2011 at 3.21 ERA. He's pitched over 200 innings both years, and he is still only 23 years old. He is a stud. He is an ace on a lot of teams, and he's only going to get better into the future. He continues to be one of those under-the-radar guys that does not get enough attention in baseball. But I'm going to go to Tim Lincecum now, Justin, because I have a point to make with him. Last year, Lincecum went 10-15 with a 5.18 ERA, and it sounds great to have this guy as your number 3 starter, a 2-time Cy Young Award winner in a contract year. I can tell you, there is absolutely zero chance, regardless of how Tim Lincecum performs, with this recent Buster Posey extension, with Hunter Pence needed to be extended after the season, some questions long-term about who's going to play the other 2 outfield positions. There is no chance that Tim Lincecum is going to return, and I don't think that I don't think he's ever going to reach the form that he was at a couple years ago, because he struggled last season mightily, never really clicked for him, and then this spring training, and I know he's never been good in spring training, but he's 0-3 with a 10.57 ERA. I just really have a lot of questions about Tim Lincecum. He's been one of my favorite MLB players to watch, but I'm not sure he's going to reach the form that he was at, and quite honestly, with Matt Cain and Madison Bumgarner at the front of this rotation, the Giants, it's not that they don't need him. You can't say you don't need a guy that was a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, but I think they're going to be all right because they have 2 ace-type guys at the top of this rotation long-term, and then Ryan Vogelsong at number 4 is not a bad option either.
Yeah, well, you pretty much cover, you know, Madison Bumgarner really well, so I'll give you some praise on that. But talking about Tim Lincecum, you know what? I think this is a guy who can really turn it around. You know, spring training is spring training. You're getting back into the groove of things. And you know what? Spring training has not been the greatest Tim Lincecum. We saw it last night against the Oakland Athletics where he gave up, 7 or 8 runs to the team. And you know what? Tim Lincecum, he really looked at last season, you're like, okay, it's one of those setback years where, you know, it's not the greatest. And, you know, every starting pitcher in Major League Baseball goes through that phase. And Tim Lincecum really saw that firsthand last year. But this is a guy who shaved off his long brown hair, long black hair, whatever color it is, and he's looking into a new phase into 2013. Look coming into spring training, look coming into the 2013 year with a whole new look, and he says, okay, it's time to get back into baseball. And I really think that with that new look for him, it's time to concentrate more into baseball right now. You know, overall, Tim Lincecum, his chances of returning to San Francisco after this year, he's in a contract here. And Tim, I have to somewhat agree with you, and I can somewhat think that the Giants can, and Tim Lincecum can agree to a deal. But, you know, he's not going to make the contract, he's not going to make the money that, you know, Verlander got, not the type of money that Adam Wainwright got. But you know what, I think the chances of him coming back is about 50-50, regardless his record. I think he's going to be pitching for his contract for this year for the Giants. You know, like you said, when you look at last year, you know, his starting rotation, numbers was not the greatest, but when he went into the bullpen and served as the bullpen in the World Series, he was phenomenal. He really came out well in the bullpen. And, a lot of people are like, use Tim Lincecum as your closer. You don't have Brian Wilson anymore. No. When you look at their bullpen, we'll get into more of that here in a little bit. You'll understand why, Tim Lincecum does not belong in the bullpen. Because you're not going to let Tim Lincecum, a guy who has amazing talent, sit in the bullpen just to pitch one or two, innings a day, a game in that point, and just let him go to waste.
Yeah.
Tim Lincecum belongs in the pitching rotation, and you know what? In 2013, with the new look going in, I think Tim Lincecum is ready for a comeback here, and that's why I picked him up in fantasy this year. And for people who do have, Tim Lincecum on their roster, you cannot go wrong with him. And you know what? It is a good, shot in the dark to come and to draft him on those rosters, which have, starting pitchers.
And more importantly, you're not going to put a guy who's making $20 million as your closer. They need him to come back for the price they're paying and be a good starter this year. And the reason I say he won't return is because if he pitches well, then he's going to be too expensive. He's going to get well over $100 million probably if he has a good year. And I wouldn't be the team to give him that because there's still a lot of concerns scouts have about Tim Lincecum long term and whether he will hold up. And if he doesn't pitch well, then the Giants aren't going to want to bring him back anyway. If he pitches like he did last year, they're going to say it was a nice run, but we're going to go in another direction, and you need to change the scenery to figure things out. So I just think that it's been a fun ride for Tim Lincecum. He will live out this year, and we'll see what happens afterwards. But my guess he's wearing a new uniform in 2014. Ryan Vogelsong is a guy that pitched for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic, and it's easy to see why after a very impressive 2012 season in which he had 14 wins and a 3.37 ERA. He's had two very good seasons. He's a late bloomer, but he has worked out extremely well, and he's probably, if not the best, he's one of the best number 4 guys in the MLB.
For people who do not know Ryan Vogelsong's story, I know you can go on YouTube and search his story. He has a really, tough story, to tell. He found at home with the San Francisco Giants, who he was originally drafted by. And you know what? The Giants, when they drafted him, they expected high expectations out of him in 2000. They traded him away to the Pittsburgh Pirates in 2001, and he came back in 2001 to the Giants. They reacquired him, and then ever since then, he ended up going to play for, I think, China, came back to the Major League level, got cut by the Pirates in spring training, ended up going to the Angels, ended up getting cut by them, ends up going back overseas, comes back and plays with like 5 different, farm system teams. He's finally found his sights in 2011 to return to the Giants with a whole new attitude, a whole new different Ryan Vogelsong. In 2011, obviously no one knew who Ryan Vogelsong was because he only appeared in 5 games total in 2000 and 2001 combined. He really wasn't a big impact name for the Giants back in the day, but you know what? He's damn well a late bloomer, and you know what? This late bloomer is really kicking some ass for this Giants team. He's a phenomenal guy, and you know what? This is a guy who can go up in the pitching depth because, like Tim said, if Tim Lincecum does not return in 2014, that's when Vogelsong's, role at number 4 will move him up to number 3, and then you will have, big questions to answer at number 4 and number 5. But, Ryan Vogelsong, a phenomenal pitcher. He has a nasty fastball and overall a nasty arsenal, and he really found his groove at home in San Francisco.
Yeah, he has. And Barry Zito comes back on a 1-year deal, and now that he is not on a 7-year, $120 million deal, or 126, I think it was, we can stop treating Barry Zito like the guy that was supposed to be a stud, that was a lethal pitcher with the Oakland A's in the early 2000s, because he's not that guy anymore, and he's never going to be, and he never really was with the Giants at all. But what he was last year was a solid number 5 star, going 15-8 with a 4.15 ERA, and then making some real big stars for the Giants in the playoffs when they needed him to step up because Matt Cain and Vogelsong had already pitched in the series, and Bumgarner and Tim Lincecum was really struggling. Barry Zito stepped up big in the playoffs for them last year, Justin, and that's why they bring him back, and you got to feel comfortable having him as your number 5 guy.
I feel really comfortable with Barry Zito, a guy who I've met personally a couple of times during spring training. He's overall a great character on the team, and he is entering a final year of a hellacious contract, which he really did not end up living up to the expectations and the early goings of the contract from 2007 to now. And, it's really questionable for Barry Zito to return. I know a lot of people are thinking, if this Giants team really needs some depth down the bottom over the rotation, you know what? I think the Giants could go out there after this contract is done. If Barry Zito pitches really well like he pitched last year, and, his ERA wasn't really where it was. It was a bigger upgrade than what he had in 2011 where he had a 5.87 ERA, and that was only in, 9 games because I think he was actually injured.
Yeah, but Justin, the deal was over last year. They brought him back on a 1-year deal this year, so the price is lower already.
Oh, I apologize on that. But you know what? The Giants, Barry Zito, he's good. It's really a shot in the dark right now because right now, after I just heard about that contract, I appreciate that, Tim, for, putting the sense in there. 15-8, 4.15 ERA, it was a big upgrade over, the 5.87 last year. I think that Zito really has got to step up this year because, like I said, he's not really going to compete. If this team's really going to compete, you've got to look at what they have against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Is Zito really going to go out there and really wow? Not really, but he's really got to prove the haters wrong in San Francisco that he deserves to be on this team for a longer extension of his career. And you know what? I think he can get it done. I think that Barry Zito is going to have another big year. We just hope that he can bring that ERA down a little bit.
Yeah, and like you said, it doesn't matter how much money he's making if he performs how he did in 2011, then they're not going to use him. If he performs how he did last year, then he's a solid number 5 guy. And this is a rotation that is just extremely impressive. But there are questions with Tim Lincecum and Barry Zito, and we'll see how those are answered. But the bottom line is that you have 3 guys in Kane, Bumgarner, and Vogelsong that you're going to get a very solid performance out of in 2013. The 3 guys we're going to profile in their bullpen are Jeremy Affeldt, Javier Lopez, and Sergio Romo. This is a bullpen that does feature Santiago Casilla, who's a very good middle reliever. It no longer features, though, Brian Wilson, the man who was one of the biggest names in the MLB a few years ago, was on Taco Bell commercials, everything. And it shows you the life of an MLB closer. Not only is he not with the Giants, he's not even with an MLB team right now. So we'll see what his long-term future is. But it isn't with the Giants, and a lot of that is because after he got injured for the second time last year, this team's bullpen really stepped up. Jeremy Affeldt will begin with, a solid lefty. It has just been tremendous the last 2 years. Had a 2.63 ERA in 2011 and then a 2.70 ERA. Both years he's pitched 67 games. You have Javier Lopez as a setup man. Lopez, another lefty, which is one of the reasons the Giants are so successful in this bullpen, is because they have 2 lefties to go to. Had a 3-0 record last year with a 2.50 ERA. The season before that, a 2.72 ERA. So both of those guys have really been extreme successes with this team. And then Sergio Romo, who a couple years ago had a big thing where Tony Bruno, the radio host, who is actually the reason why I started this show, so I'm not trying to kill Tony Bruno. He's actually commented on a couple videos, and great guy, but he put his foot in his mouth and made a comment about how Sergio Romo looked like an illegal immigrant. And since then, Sergio Romo's career has just taken off. He went 3-1 with a 1.50 ERA in 2011, and then in 2012 came back and had a 1.79 ERA, saved 14 of 15 games in the regular season, and then in the playoffs was lights out, including saving Game 4, the clinching game of the World Series, and that is what allowed the Giants to let Brian Wilson go, because they have found their long-term closer in Sergio Romo.
I love this bullpen a whole lot because you know what? Not only are they, it's like a mixture of veteran to young guys. Because when you look at it, they got a couple of guys that they brought up through the farm system. One guy I have to give a lot of praise to, who's going to be carrying a heavy workload in the early innings of the season, is George Contos. A huge guy who has just really been bounced around from team to team ever since 2010 when he really came into Major League Baseball. He came with the New York Yankees, but then again, he was just bounced around from team to team, from farm system to farm system. I'm not saying a drastic amount, but it's just mainly the farm system. He was just mainly bounced around with the Yankees. But coming over here, the Giants really put him to work. The Giants saw something in him, which was really working out really well. And the Giants, really took over him, and they said, okay, you're going to be our middle inning to late relieving type of player. And he really produced last year. Had a 2-1 record with a 2.47 ERA and 43 innings pitched. I think he's going to carry a big workload. He's going to be seeing a lot of playing time in 2013. So I love George Contos. When it comes to the veteran guys, big praise up to Jeremy Affeldt, another guy who the Giants have had to hold on to this year, because without without Jeremy Alpha, I think the bullpen would have been a lot of trouble. It doesn't really have that second, veteran type of guy in the bullpen. This bullpen is very young, not taking anything away from, Santiago Casilla, another veteran on this roster. I still think that there needs to be, another advanced pitcher who has had that major league experience for a while now, and that's why they had to go out there and get Jeremy Affeldt, who has pitched phenomenal over the past couple of years with the San Francisco Giants, serving as the team's late inning reliever, and that's something that they really had to go with, going into this year. Sergio Romo, filling in the role for Brian Wilson. I'm really crushed by this. I think that the Giants could still go out there and get Brian Wilson. I heard Brian Wilson is he's 80 to 90%, and the Giants have not counted him out of re-signing him. And I think that could be a possibility somewhere down the line. I'm not saying he's going to relive his role as a closer. I think Sergio Romo just really took over last year and really wowed us to what he can do as a team's closer. And it really worked out well, not only in the regular season, but also in the playoffs and in the World Series. Big praise to what the Giants have done. Big praise to Bruce Bochy, who really deserved this new contract extension. He signed through 2016, a much awarding contract for Bruce Bochy. It was just a matter of time until he really got a new contract.
Yeah, and the same thing goes for Brian Sabian, the GM, who has done a tremendous job. He had a rough time as a start there when they were still in the Barry Bonds era, but as of recent, he's done a tremendous job building these two world title teams, especially considering they're almost two completely different teams. The bottom line, though, the Giants were a World Series team last year, but Justin, while the Diamondbacks traded away Justin Upton, I think they're going to get a little bit better this year. The Padres were hot down the stretch last year. They look to carry that over into this season. The Rockies suck, and the Dodgers are a team that, that's the bottom line. But the Dodgers are a team that has built a ton of talent, a ton of depth. While they have some injuries early on, I'm sticking with my original pick that the Dodgers will win this division with 94 wins. I think the Giants win 91 or 92 games, and they win a wild card, and they probably win that wild card game and get into the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. I have to agree. But you know what? I think that the Dodgers, I think the Dodgers can really go into this season. It can really wow us all. But you know what? When you look at the San Francisco Giants, a team last year, a lot of people were like, okay, is this team going to be winning this division? I know they won it the season prior, and they did get eliminated in the playoffs. The Giants, I really think with Matt Cain, Madison Bumgarner leading that charge in the rotation, you got a whole new look, with the new additions who is going to be pretty decent. I have a lot of praise for Andreas Blanco, that 100 pence for a full year. You got that contract. Let's just hope that Angel Pagan can live up to the expectations. Let's hope that Tim Lincecum can really get back into the groove with a whole new look going into 2013. I see the Giants win 93 games as the Dodgers win 92. I have the Giants taking this division. It's going to be a close one, but you know what? I know there has been, a lot of stuff in the past, with teams getting a lot of talent, but just have not been, connecting the dots late into the season. I think it's going to come down to the final week. I think the Dodgers are going to fall off a game or two, and I think that's when the Giants really come in and really capitalize and picking up some much-needed wins, and that's why I have them winning this division by one or two games.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun race to watch no matter what. And Justin, this is it, man. We've done 3 years now, the 30 Clubs, 30 Previews MLB special. There's no guarantee we're going to be back doing this next year, but I would certainly assume that we will. For those of you who have checked out the entire special, thank you very much. For those of you who have not, go to youtube.com/Mr. Kelstar. There's a playlist there that says 2013 MLB Preview. You can watch an MLB Preview in depth like this from the best sports hosts on the internet. I'm being cocky. I don't even care because that's what we are. You can check that out on our channel, every single MLB team. For now, though, I'm Tim Kelly. He's Justin Gotze. And Justin, it's been a fun time.
Absolutely. I'm crying a little bit, man. I'm crying. It's been 3 amazing years doing this. We're going to try and do this next year for you guys. If we do that, I will hold back the tears, but next year could be up and flamed right now.
It doesn't matter. The bottom line, we will be here for this entire MLB season. We'll be doing weekly MLB shows, bringing back the cycle. I don't know if that's a name we're going to call it, but we're bringing back our weekly MLB show. We're going to probably be doing some podcasts in the summer. And the bottom line, we're going to be having all the best sports coverage here. You can check out section215.com, my website. And Justin, what's your new website again?
My website's going to be launching tomorrow night. It's JustinGotzi.com, where you can read all my interviews with all pro athletes, college athletes, anything you got. I'm going to be showcasing you a sports blog and some interviews with some pro athletes.
Oh yeah, certainly you're going to want to check that out. 30 clubs, 30 preview special in the book. We'll see you guys for the MLB season.